guys, and welcome back to another video. So I know it's been kind of a long time since I've done a watercolor painting process video for you guys, but I've been kind of in a watercolor slump or funk recently, and I've been kind of stuck in this for quite a while. I feel like for me, it's like the process of painting has always been fun, but the end result isn't what I've been expecting a lot of the time, and maybe it's just because I need to really just slow down and start to refine everything to be the way I would like it to be. But today I thought I would show you guys the painting process of this illustration, just because I did have a lot of fun painting this particular piece, except that the fact that I'm not really too fond of the end result, for two reasons. One, it just didn't really look like what I had in mind, as well as the second part is that I think I could have painted it a little bit more less controlled, I guess. I should have maybe let the colors mingle a little bit if I wanted to capture a certain kind of atmosphere. But yeah, let's just talk about the kind of concept and theme, or the general idea of what I wanted to do for this particular painting. So I had this idea of wanting to do an illustration for 17's unit lines, kind of like unit songs. So this time for 17 semicolon album, they decided to instead of, how to explain this, instead of separating their units into hip-hop, performance, and vocal like they usually do, and instead of doing mixed units like they've done in the past, they decided to do songs in groups of about 3 or 4, and they are based on their age lines basically. So there's 3 people born in 95, 3 people born in 97, and 3 people born, I guess like they call it the maknae line, so it's like 2 people born in 98 and 1 person born in 99, and then 96 line has 4 people. So Hey Buddy is a song done by the 97 line, and if you're not familiar with the song, it might be a little bit confusing on the concept or the theme that I have, or like the aesthetic that I was trying to go for might be a little bit confusing. So Hey Buddy is very much like, it feels more like retro and a little funky. It's really fun, like a fun song, and basically it's very much like, hey, like come out, we want to hang out with, like come hang out with us kind of song. And I think it's a very fun kind of concept, especially if you put it in the setting of like a retro diner and they're just like waiting for you to come hang out kind of idea. So that's kind of the theme or the aesthetic that I was trying to go for this particular piece. I definitely screwed it up right at the beginning. So I had a color comp done on the iPad. So initially when I was doing the concept for this particular piece, I had a whole spread just dedicated to sketching out what I wanted this piece to look like in my sketchbook. But because I knew I wanted to do watercolor painting for this, I decided to do the sketch in Procreate just to keep it clean, and I can really flesh out ideas and shuffle things a lot easier than doing it traditionally on like, pencil and paper, without needing to go back and like edit the crap out of my sketch. So after I had the clean sketch done, I decided to print it out onto just normal letter size printer paper, so I can prepare it to transfer it to my watercolor paper. And just a heads up, if you're listening to this and you want to know about all the materials, they'll be in the description, as well as little flags at the beginning. I'll probably put a little disclaimer at the beginning saying that if you want to watch the full process but you're not interested in listening to me ramble for half an hour or watching real-time footage for half an hour, there will be a condensed 5-minute version I will have unlisted and listed into the description for you guys to watch if you're just interested in watching the full piece come together really quick. But yeah, so I did the color comp and the sketch in Procreate, and then the entire colors that I had for this particular piece in Procreate is completely different to how I even just started this piece. It was more on the pinkish, like the pink side, and a little bit more of like what I wanted to be kind of like neon colors and stuff instead. But for some reason, maybe it was just because I was nervous and I just went with my gut feeling. I would just put down yellow immediately where the window was so I could have warm lighting, which is kind of the opposite of what I had in my other piece, because I wanted to have more of a cool tone, just kind of more of a night scene. But here we have more of a like maybe late afternoon or kind of like late evening, not evening, I guess it'd be like afternoon, where the sun's like really bright and kind of shining in, which like I don't mind. It looks really cute, the fact that how warm this piece is. But I think I might redo this, but do it digitally and see if I can do like more of a nighttime in neon colors instead. But yeah, I think in the future, if I do want to do this concept again, I might rearrange the composition to be a little bit different, or I might even do it vertical, and see if I can fit the free figures in a different way and show more of a diner aesthetic behind them. We'll see. But I think this composition works out just because it does seem like, you know, they're kind of waiting for you, and maybe you just kind of arrived and they just notice you kind of thing. Because like D8's looking at you, Mingi's looking at you, and kind of Dogyam's like kind of like greeting you and be like, hey, like you made it. But yeah, one thing I really did enjoy is that because I had a lot of warm lighting coming from the upper left, playing around with kind of like cool tones and some warm tones for the shadows was actually really fun. So you can see me doing it for the condiment bottles right now, and then later on you'll see that I add a little bit more of like warm and cool tones to where Mingyu's arm touches the edge of the table on the very left, as well as like underneath their fries and that napkin that's like near the center of the table. But yeah, I'm not too sure what else I can talk about in terms of the piece until we get to certain parts of the piece. But in terms of watercolor painting recently, I'm not sure if it's the paper I'm using that I'm not fond of, or the fact that I've probably beat up my paintbrush a little bit too much. So something that's a little bit different from the other recent, I'm gonna put recent in quotation marks, but recent watercolor speed paints that I did, or like process videos that I've done in the past, was that I used to just basically use two brushes. So I would usually use my Raphael Kolinsky number 6 round brush, which has a very sharp tip and a kind of a brush that can hold a lot of water. So I can usually get away with just using that one brush for all my colors, some like filling in colors, my detailing, my line work, like everything, as long as I take the time to actually control the brush and, you know, pay attention to how much pigment to water ratio and all that jazz. But I don't know if I beat up this brush way too much to the point where the point's not really holding up anymore, and it's getting harder for me to get really clean lines. And I feel like that's part of the reason why like I don't like the end results of some of my paintings. I rely heavily on doing the line work and a lot of the detailing and stuff, and keeping everything looking clean at the end, because I like to do thinner line work, I guess, or like dark thin line work at the very end with the same brush. Now, just because I know I didn't want to botch up this painting, I decided to use several different brushes this time. I used a size, I think it's a 12 or it's a 14. Actually, I have it right here. Actually, it's a 16. I have this giant 16 round brush with a long handle. I hate using it, but it does work out to use it for like larger washes. I can't speak today. But I used that in the beginning to put down the initial wash of the yellowish color coming from the top left moving downwards, and then I switched to my Raphael Kolinsky number 6 brush for doing the majority of filling in all the colors and all that, just because it's one of my versatile brushes that I can definitely just use to do thick and thin really easily. But when I started to do the line work, I actually switched back to my number 8 script brush. Now, I usually I haven't used this brush in a long time, and this used to be my go-to brush for like quite a while, and I always thought like I could get away just using this one script brush because I used it to fill in like in quotation, like bigger areas. I used to work like super small anyways, so this brush would suffice, or I would use a number 5 round brush, which also is very small. It could only hold up like very little water because it was a cheaper brush and the hairs just didn't really hold up that much water. But because I was working so small, it didn't really matter. But now that I've been sizing up a little bit more and working primarily like on letter size paper at least, for illustrations, a brush that can hold up more water is just more suitable if you want like flat washes or consistent color. But yeah, so I used to use that script brush a lot, and I decided to pull it out again and use that for the line work because I remember that even though the point isn't as sharp as the Raphael Kolinsky, I knew I could get a consistent line that I was comfortable using, and there's less pressure because the brush itself is not as squishy, I guess. Like the Raphael Kolinsky brush, if you push it one way, because the hairs are so soft, it kind of just stays like that, which is why when doing line work, you really do have to make sure you're only working with where the tip is laying, because as soon as you push down on the whole brush, like your brush kind of shifts and kind of just like stays in a different position for a little bit. But with the script brush, because of all the kind of like synthetic hairs and stuff, it kind of just holds its shape the entire time, so it's very reliable for getting very thin lines and very consistent long lines, which I kind of needed just for a confident boost, I guess. Maybe I just need to rework with the Raphael Kolinsky. I'm kind of looking into getting another one because the Raphael Kolinsky number 6 brush is technically like my favorite brush that I've used so far, even though like I kind of struggled with it at the very beginning when I bought it from Japan, and as soon as I came back to Canada, it's like I started using it and I really hated that brush. But now it's like the last year or so, I really enjoyed using it. It's just really versatile and easy to use, and like really it's just like if I had to pick one brush, I would probably just take that brush with me. So I'll definitely look into getting either a similar brush or the same brush again if I can find somewhere that sells it. Let's see. So where are we at in terms of the illustration? So this illustration I think took me 5 hours to paint, which was a little bit difficult for me to condense down to only half an hour of footage. So if you guys really do want to see a quick version, just check the description for that speed paint version of it. I had a fun time working with the hair. I really like how Do-Gyam's hair came out. For the most part, it was easy for me to like layer and bleed in the darker colors to this portion of his hair a little bit later, as well as Mingyu's. I just like dark hair for me is the easiest to paint technically. Light hair I find like a lot harder, like white hair and stuff. Actually, I'll probably try my best to edit and put up that painting of Paimon I did before. I think some of you guys would have saw it on Instagram or on my community post that I was painting Paimon. So I'll probably put that up later. That or I'm gonna redo it and do a different pose. Like Paimon, the way I painted it, I do like it, but I feel like it just doesn't have that same cute annoying energy that I would like Paimon to have. So maybe I'll redo it. Let's see. So right now I'm just doing the detailing for Ming Hao's kind of like handkerchief kind of thing that he has like wrapped around his neck. I think for the most part, maybe I would have chose a little bit of different outfits. I really like Do-Gyam and Mingyu's outfit for this particular color scheme. I might have to change D8's colors a little bit to match a little bit closer. I think maybe because like I started off with warm colors in the beginning, that I've made most of Ming Hao's outfit a little bit too, I don't know, did this look a little Christmassy, a little too Christmassy? Maybe I should have pushed the green to be more of a yellowy green, or I should have pushed the red to be more of a cooler red or like a pinkish red color. I don't know, this whole diner place, I don't know if I like the red and white, just because like In general, unless I put in the, what you're gonna see a little bit later is checkers for some of the detailing, a lot of this doesn't really read as a retro diner. So yeah, I think I need to rethink the aesthetic a little bit more, and I probably rethink the color palette. I feel like maybe because I'm still a little rusty with watercolor painting that I was sticking very much to my comfort zone. I'll put up a piece where I show something like I'm usually not as used to painting, because I usually do very simple and basic color palettes as well as just simple lighting. But there's this particular Wonu painting that I did of like witch Wonu in kind of like his, what do you call this? Kind of like his studio or something where he would keep all his plants and stuff, or like a workshop. I guess it would be like a workshop. So it has like this weird lighting where the light's coming from, I think, his book, and everywhere around him is quite dark. So I had to do a lot of layering, and I feel like for this piece, maybe it would have benefit from layering a little bit more and maybe dimming it down to the point where I could have made it look more like an evening scene if I maybe put Dogyam and Mingyu a little bit more in shadow. Heck, like, I could have put Minghao in shadow too, because he is supposed to be backlit, so I could have put a shadow all over his front part of his hair, his face, and like the inside part of his body, just to make it look like he's more backlit, because at this point the lighting isn't very controlled. Like, you have shadows coming from the condiment bottles and like where Mingyu's arm touches the table, as well as a little bit of D8's and a bit of Dogyam's body kind of like reaching over. I don't know. I feel like I just need to rework the composition a little bit more and see if there is a way for me to have an easier time painting something like this. Now, not only that, like if you've seen any of my watercolor paintings in the past, unless I did line work before painting, I usually don't put more than 2 people in a piece, which was, I think, another issue that I had with this, is that I'm just not used to having so many figures in one piece unless they're chibis. But I mean, either way, it's like this painting was still very fun. I still had a fun time layering the colors. As you can see that I was layering kind of like this purpley gray color on top of the sweater so that I can do a quick shadow, just to indicate a bit more shape to his arm. Later on, like even though like that would have sufficed for adding shadow to his sweater, I did go back and add a darker green for the stripes, just to make it like kind of pop a little bit more and look a little bit deeper. I think Mingyu actually came out pretty cute. Same with D8. I need to rework Dogyam a little bit later. Yeah. I'm already thinking of redoing this piece, or like redoing this whole concept, but I'm not sure if I want to do it digitally. Heck, like I could do it as chibis too at this point. Actually, I really like this part. So as you can see, I'm putting shadows for Mingyu's like sweater vest part. And I have it coming from a really vibrant red, and then I started diluting it with this muted purple, and then I really wanted to play around with the color. I love playing around with red, so layering purples and blues with red I love doing. So I decided to bleed in this kind of like dark blue purple color into his sweater, and I think it kind of dries really nicely. I do dilute it a little bit more a little bit later, so it's not as prominent. And once I add the line work, it definitely doesn't look like out of place, because it might look a little too dark for now. So now I'm working on Minghao's hair. I'm just darkening up portions of his hair just to put more indication that there's a little bit more value and form to his hair, just because it did look a little bit too flat, and I did go a little bit lighter with all their hair colors this time instead of going straight with one color, bleeding, and then going super dark. So Minghao's hair is actually a reddish brown color. It definitely looks a little bit more red, I think, in my picture as well as on camera, but in real life I think it's more of a reddish brown color. That's another thing I didn't really plan out. So for the diner, I was looking at different diner colors, and like I feel like the usual diner colors are like the red and white checkers is very much like that aesthetic. And I didn't realize that Minghao's hair is like predominantly red, and then Mingyu's outfit, at least his sweater vest, is predominantly red. And there's only like pops of blue coming from them. And I tried to combat that by making Mingyu and D8's eyes, and I guess Do-kyung's eyes, like blue, so that we can have blue throughout the piece. And I feel like there's just too much red in this piece. I feel like I should have went with, there's another diner color one that I saw, which was a more pink and I think mint almost. And I feel like that could have worked out. I would just have to take Mingyu's outfit and add a little bit more pink and make it a little bit cooler. And then I could change the sweater to be a little bit more of the same aesthetic so that they still fit. And then there's more of a cohesive color scheme. I don't know. It just looks a little bit too fast foody instead of diner. And I don't know if it's because of the amount of red and yellow, or it's all the primary colors all together. Not too sure. I definitely had fun painting it though. I feel like I had more fun towards the end when I'm starting to refine and add a little bit more of darker areas to like the shadows. I decided to actually put something else on the poster behind Do-kyung because I was gonna have text, but because there's very little showing on the poster, I decided to put something else that you guys will see a little bit later. Right now I'm just doing D8's line work. So I did his face first. I think I did his glasses, and then I did his hair. So now I'm working on just his clothing. And then I switched to working on the people in the back. So I'm working on Do-kyung's hand first. I'm going to make my way from Do-kyung's hand all the way over to Mingyu's face. Just so I'm working left to right so I don't accidentally smudge anything. Yeah, I feel like I haven't done a full talking voiceover in a long time. But thank you guys very much for 80k on YouTube though. I think by this time when this video comes out, I would have hit 80k. So thank you very much guys for all the support on this channel. I'll try my best to make sure I keep varying up the videos though. I feel like it's been predominantly digital. I do have a few, or like one sketchbook doodles video I could do. We'll see. Yeah, I've just been feeling out of it in terms of doing traditional art. I feel like I've been sketching in my sketchbook an okay amount recently. Just doing random stuff and kind of doing it for more of like stress reliever doodles. And then my watercolor sketchbook is giving me more stress because painting is not coming out the way I liked it. So we'll see. So a lot of the checkers, I think I did this for the napkins as well as Mingyu's tie, but I had to go back in and put in the like a grid on top of them so that I could make it easier for myself to paint the squares and diamonds that I needed to do. It's just easier for patterning. I don't like putting in all the lines right at the beginning because I might follow them too closely. So I definitely took out the patterning at least for those, and then later on I take a pink mechanical pencil or like my palette color Eno, and I will go over and do the patterning so that I can paint them very cleanly and I don't have to erase them because the palette color Eno is water soluble, so it does kind of mix along with the paint so it's not as visible. Right now I'm just darkening up Do-kyung and Mingyu's hair, which are predominantly darker and they're supposed to be a little bit more brown. I believe I painted both Mingyu's and Do-kyung's a little bit too dark. So Do-kyung's should have been a little bit more brown in some areas, like a very cool brown. And then Mingyu's, I went too dark. Mingyu's hair is kind of like an ash brown. I don't know how to explain it. It's like almost gray and brown, and it's, I don't know. I feel like I just went too dark with this last little wash that I'm doing right now. I actually really like the undertone, I guess, of Mingyu's hair that I had before. It looked really nice because I added the ultramarine from Holbein, And the paint from Holbein, like not a lot of their paints, but there are some that granulate. So I believe Holbein's ultramarine does granulate and did look really cool. And actually I can still kind of see it on the piece right now. So yeah, the granulation does look really nice. I'm not like too comfortable using granulation, like granulating colors, but it's also just kind of a nice surprise to see every once in a while in your own piece. So after I finished off doing Mingyu's like kind of like the darker valleys in his hair, I decided to do the line work just to keep everything clean, and then I can move on to doing the line work for his outfit, because at this point I think majority of Dogyam's outfit has been lined already. Oh, I guess I didn't really show it to you guys. I did line his sweater, and then now I'm doing the kind of weird patterning he has on his tie. I'm trying to make the patterning on his tie a little bit irregular, just because none of it really matched up in the reference either, because a tie is being wrapped, so things are being scrunched and squeezed and pinched. So I didn't want it to keep it as uniformed as I did for the napkins for their fries. So I'm just quickly throwing in the weird kind of like navy color on top of the gold that he has on his tie, and then after that I believe I start doing the line work for his shirt, which is quite fun and easy. I think I've expressed this in the past. I think it's the same for like digital drawing and traditional painting for me. I like to mix and match different colors for doing the shadows for white clothing, or like the shadows like for white objects. It's just more fun to do that. So here I have more of like a cooler blue color for the shadow, as well as a kind of like purple color, and that was kind of just using the leftover paint that I had from Mingyu's sweater and kind of just mixing it. And I did the same thing for when I was doing the shadow for right under his arm that touches the table. Looks like I'm just doing a little bit of detailing for D8's drink, and then that drink near the center of the composition. Yeah, there's just like a lot of things I could nitpick about. Like D8's head's a little too big too, and it might be actually because like I didn't really flesh out his technically the right side of his body, so it looks really scrunched and squished. Yeah, so I'm just finishing off by doing a lot of the line work for the objects. So that's like including the fries, the napkins. I believe I'll put another shadow under the napkins. I'm doing the window. I actually really like the poster. The shadows on the left of the poster actually look quite nice. I liked making it look like it was kind of like peeling from the wall a little bit, so it's not fully flushed. So adding that shadow kind of makes it look a little bit more less flat, I guess. And just putting simple lines for the window. I actually really don't like the window. I feel like I could have got away if I actually put blinds there. Maybe I should have looked at more diner photos. I don't know. Sorry this video is really rambly, but luckily I think you guys don't mind when I ramble, so hopefully this isn't too rambly for you guys. I'm just adding blue for the text. Okay, now that I think about it, I thought about this like as soon as I started to tape off the painting. So when I printed off this piece, it printed a little bit bigger than what I wanted it to. So I knew I was gonna paint on an like the letter size paper, but my watercolor paper is also letter size, so it's gonna be the exact same size as my sketch that's being printed on the letter size paper, if that makes sense. And because of that, the text was, even though it wasn't touching the edge, if I wanted to tape off the painting, I would have taped off the bottom part of the Y for Buddy, and that's exactly what happened. But I was very much too lazy to, like, I was just too lazy to reprint it, so I just left it, and now this looks weird because like the Y shouldn't be cut off, and I don't know. As for the poster in the back, I decided to throw in a quick bonbongi. So I'm just doing his eyes right now. If you don't know who Bonbongi is, he's just like the 17's kind of like little character mascot thing that Mingyu made a while back, and they have merch of him and stuff, and he's based off like their light stick or their carrot bong, so it's really cute. But he's really simple and easy to paint, so I decided to throw him in the back, and I think he's quite recognizable, so it was okay if like the top part of his head is kind of cut off. So I put him in the back, and then now I'm on to gouache. So I'm using white gouache to do a few highlights for their hair and kind of fixing up a little bit of the text so it can pop a little bit forward from the foreground. I didn't show this, but I actually added a bunch of little dots coming from the window, kind of like as dust particles, but it didn't read right, so you'll see a little bit later on the wall and a little bit of like maybe the condiment jars and a little bit in Minghao's hair that I kind of scrubbed away at the gouache paint a little bit. So if there's a little bit of smudging, that's the reason why. Yeah, you can see it a little bit. There's like a little bit of smudge on the wall between the poster and the window, but I think that's about it. There's nothing much to talk about this piece. I did have fun painting it, and maybe I'll try my best to get over the fact that I don't want the end product to be perfect and the way I want it to be, so I can post more watercoloring videos for you guys, and hopefully both you and I can enjoy them. But yeah, you guys would have saw sneak peeks of this on Instagram for the most part, because I was expressing how nervous I was to paint this, because like I said, I don't really paint more than 2 people, I think, in a composition usually for traditional stuff, unless they're chibis. So I'm just doing a quick cleanup of the excess graphite that was taped underneath, and then I think that is about it. I just have a few close-up shots of the piece itself. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me paint this particular piece. Yeah, hopefully more watercolors in the video, like in the future, and I'll talk to you guys next time with another video, hopefully. Yeah, bye!